time for the Straight Up Wrestling Show.
Everybody, it's HBT with Straight Up Wrestling Show, man. I am here live. So, hey, I'm here live. I'm going to do a solo act tonight. My man, Christopher Burton, at home and resting up for getting up early. He needs to get up early in the morning at 4 o'clock to go in to work, guys. But, hey, I'm going to go ahead and come on tonight and pretty much talk about a little bit of wrestling, guys, and talk about wrestling in the mainstream. And, hey, I want to know, man, can it get back there in its current state? Can wrestling get back in its current state, get back to the mainstream? So basically, I'm going to be talking about that. You know, I've been seeing a lot of things here lately. I've been seeing wrestlers and I've been seeing a lot of fans, and I've seen a lot of fans, but I've seen a few wrestlers who basically out here saying that, pretty much trying to say that wrestling is in the mainstream, guys. And hey, man, I'm a huge wrestling fan again. You know, it took many years before I got back into that. You know, this right here, this podcast got me back into it and going into some indie shows with my partner Christopher Burton and our former podcast partner Danny Paris, our old commentary partner Danny Paris. And it was Christopher Burton, Danny Paris got me back into it. Michael King, our old podcast partner, when it was a 3-man team. So pretty much that got me back into wrestling after a lot of years not being involved, guys. Barely watching it every now and then. I was a huge wrestling fan for like a little bit over 20 years, the first 20-some years of my life. And then I dropped off after WCW, right before a couple years before WCW died. I had got sick of it, got tired of it, and pretty much dropped off of it. Wasn't that much of a fan. So, you know, but the last 2 years, last 25, 26 months, I've become a huge fan, especially now, a huge fan of the sport. What's up, Green Randall? Hey, Harry, I can't stay, but I just wanted to put down my 2 cents on the matter. I think the problem lies with the current climate around wrestling. Both the tribal way fans view the industry. Yeah, exactly, Green Randall. No ends, ands, and buts about it. And yeah, I will be getting to that. But yeah, Green Randall, man, hey, have a great night. Go ahead and take off. Appreciate you coming in, man, chiming in on the Straight Up Wrestling Show, man. You are one of our ride or die. You hear all the time. I definitely appreciate that. And we will see you tomorrow, man, hopefully for Monday Night Raw and NXT SmackDown. NXT and then SmackDown later on in the week. Chris will be back with me Wednesday, but I'll be on tomorrow and Tuesday night to do both of those shows. But Chris will be back with me Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But guys, yeah, let me go ahead and get into this, man. Get into this matter, talk about this. And you know, I had one of our viewers, a real good friend of mine, Ray Underwood, man. Raymond, he sent me something on Al Snow, and Al Snow was talking about wrestling, man, and you know, the popularity of wrestling through the years and how it's been in the mainstream and part of pop culture and everything like that. And hey, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna tell you straight up, and I've been around a lot of fans, especially lately. The last 2 years, Chris and I, we've been around a lot of indie fans, a lot of people that's really into wrestling. They watch indie, they go to these big indie shows, and they watch AEW, they watch WWE, they watch Impact, they watch NWA Power. They stay up on it, guys. All right, Thirsty Jack, we living in a different era. What's up, Thirsty Jack? Glad to join the Straight Up Wrestling Show tonight. Wrestling is in a great state. Social media is a strong vehicle for any wrestling company. And Thirsty Jack, I'll get to that too about what's going on as far as everything that's surrounding wrestling. It's so many vehicles pretty much to put wrestling, wrestling out there, put it out in a great state. Like you say, it's a lot of different, you have wrestling all the time on TV now. Wrestling is on TV all the time. We at the click of a mouse or at the click of on our phone, we can go to and check out wrestling. There's no ins and buts about it. It's there. It's everywhere. But does that mean that it's in the mainstream? Does that mean that it's with the general population? That is with out here? What am I trying to say? I say general population that basically when I say mainstream, man, it's another word for it. But is it out here with the people that's let's look at mainstream culture. Mainstream pop culture is people that love music. Everybody loves music. Okay, so it does not matter what genre of music that you love. Most people that listen to just country music are gonna know a lot of rap artists. A lot of people that listen to pop music gonna know a lot of a lot of country artists. So a lot of people that back in the day when I was growing up, a lot of people that used to like heavy metal, they knew a lot about rap or R&B and things like that. So music, that was universal, that was culture. Okay, you can take 100 fans, you can take 100 people in pop culture today in the United States, and you can that's walking downtown, say walking downtown Greenville, my hometown, or walking downtown maybe in New York City or something like that, and you can ask 80 of them, do they know about the NFL or have they watched the NFL game this year, or do they plan on watching an NFL game? I guarantee you 80 to 84% of them will say they're going to watch an NFL game. Or, if they're not going to watch it themselves, they're going to watch it with their boyfriends, their husbands, or something like that. Let's see. It's plenty of things that we can pick out. It's like having a popular TV show. Let's take 911 for instance. 10, 12, 15 million people watch that show every week. So that's mainstream. When I'm talking about mainstream, that's what I'm talking about. Wrestling used to be mainstream. We can sit here all we want and say we got so many platforms for wrestling now that it's mainstream. But that is not true, guys. That's not true. And that's one thing that we have to do. We have to get it back mainstream. Mainstream, when I was growing up, wrestling was so big. It was so huge. You could talk to anybody. You go to work or whatever, you talk to anybody at the job or whatever, and they knew about wrestling or knew something about it. My husband watched it. Everybody, I could talk to anybody about wrestling. They knew about it. Same thing, going to school back in the 80s, man, everybody was part of the culture. Everybody knew about wrestling. If they didn't, and if they did, man, they knew somebody who was really into it, into their family. All right, Green Randall, at one point, Mike Tyson and Mr. T was wrestling because it is just that big. That's true. There's no, because it's just that big, there's no way in hell Floyd would do the same now. Clearly something changed. Exactly, Green Ramble. No doubt about that, man. No ends and but about that. Hey, and I'm not trying to put anybody down. And I know a lot of people will, probably say, "Oh man, goodness sake, I don't want to listen to this." And some people clicked off, as they coming in and they hearing what I'm talking about. And when they hear that downer, when I say, "Hey, basically, no, it's not mainstream," people don't want to hear that. They be like, "Hey, man, I don't want to hear that." It is, but it's not. It's not. And all the fans today that think it is delusional. Al Snow, he wrote a big, he wrote this thing out, and I read it today. Ray Underwood sent it to me, and like I said, he was saying it's part of the pop culture. It's very strong. It's very healthy. Rollins said it's healthy and everything. Yes, it's healthy, but it's healthy to the fans that's already out there, the fans that gravitate toward it now. And hey, these fans that's there now, and I see a lot of these same fans at all these different indie shows, at these indie shows, and every show, man, you be lucky to get 200 people at a show. You might get anywhere from 60 to 80, sometimes lower number than that. But I see some of these same fans at some of the same shows within like a 50 to 70 mile radius, man. We got 7, 8 different little promotions there, and all these same fans are at the same shows, guys. Same fans. But and what I'm gonna tell you about, like, pop culture. Let's look at pop culture. Hey, buying cars is pop culture. Fashion is pop culture. Going into retail stores, buying clothes and things like that. People that's out here working in retail, that's part of pop culture. What they're selling, you're selling every day. You selling T-shirts. You are selling you're selling tennis shoes. You are selling cell phones and things like that. That is pop culture. And I have talked to people in pop culture, and I tell them what we do. I tell them, hey, man, we have a podcast. We have a wrestling podcast. Some people have asked me, is it a wrestling podcast? They thought we was doing like college wrestling and things like that. We're like, no, we do pro wrestling. And I mean, and some people are shocked. But for the most part, the 70, 80% of the time, I get people smiling and say, I used to watch it. They say, I used to watch it. I used to be a big fan. And then they start naming off Ric Flair. They name off Hulk Hogan. They name off Steve Austin. They name off Rock. They name off all these people. And they talk about when they fell off from becoming, from being that fan, being a casual fan or being a mainstream fan, somebody that really loved wrestling, even though they loved other different things like football, basketball, baseball, and things like that. Wrestling was always part of their lives. And they would talk about that. They said, I used to love it and stuff like that. I used to like it, but not no more, so, and a lot of them look at it as a joke. So, man, when it boils down to it, that's just the bottom line. Wrestling is not mainstream no more. It haven't been mainstream for a long time, but it's people like me, it's people like you. It's up to us to get it back that way. But when you have a lot of people out here, that's dogging the organizations that they don't like, and they just in it. And if if your opinion don't ride with their opinion, and they just dismiss you, a lot of people don't want to be involved in that, man. A lot of people don't want to be involved in that. I see a lot of people, get, over time, I've seen people get upset with me in the past 2 years because a certain wrestler that they like, that they really into, I don't really care for that much. And hey, my opinion just it just boils. It just makes them boil. And back in the day, man, it wasn't like that. I mean, everybody had their favorite wrestlers. I don't care if it was a jobber. Sometimes you had wrestlers out here that just wasn't that good. And people liked them, and everybody digged it, man. People like, wow, man, okay, you like this person. Everybody had, you could get a 40 different people, and you could take 20 to 22 of those people, and they have different opinions, and they'll have different wrestlers that they like. You might have a segment, a handful of those people like Ric Flair. You might have a handful of those people like Hulk Hogan. You might have a handful of those people like Randy Savage. And you will have a handful of those people like Dusty Rhodes, handful of those people like Magnum TA, handful of those people like Sting. It was just flat out crazy. It was great. It was outstanding. But we all can communicate with each other and all have great conversations about who was the best at that time. And man, and we all knew when it boiled down to it, but we respected everyone's opinions. But now, hey, man, you like a certain wrestler or something, and you don't like that wrestler, that person that they like or whatever, or you don't like that organization they like, hey, everybody just blows up they blow up in each other's face. And back then, back in the 80s, man, when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, 70s, even the 70s, we did not put down other organizations. We knew there was other organizations, there was territories and things, and there was, cable had started coming along in the late 70s and the 80s and the 90s. And so you would see Georgia Championship Wrestling, Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, you see Florida Championship Wrestling, you see the Mid-South, you see like World Class Championship Wrestling from Texas. So you see other different organizations. Now, the organization that I grew up with was Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, and I would watch Georgia Championship Wrestling too. I thought those were the best too. Now, the other 3 or 4 that came on every now and then, or I saw on satellite, that's been when you had those big, huge satellites. Some people in the neighborhood, every now and then you go to a neighborhood, somebody will have it, or your uncle or somebody, and those satellites reached everywhere. So they had thousands of channels. So you got to see a lot if you was a wrestling fan, but it wasn't wrestling on TV like it is now. But every single organization, every territory had they shows on TV. Reach out to Portland and watch Portland Championship Wrestling. And like I say, Mid-South, down in Louisiana, you can reach out and watch Bill Watts promotion. And you can look over to Memphis, man. You can see Jerry Lawler and Jeff. What is Jeff Jarrett's dad, Jerry Jarrett? You can see his organization over there in Memphis. Each one of these organizations was different as far as the style of wrestling. But I never, even though I like Mid-Atlantic better than all the rest of them, I never put down any of the other organizations, and none of my friends did. A lot of friends that like wrestling, like I said, mostly everybody liked wrestling back then. If they didn't like it, it might not have been their favorite thing, but they would watch it on occasions. They would watch it, man, and they knew who these guys were, who were the top stars and things like that, because wrestling every single year they would have on news channels, they would have surveys who are your favorite athletes? And people will send in responses. And they would go on the streets and ask people that. And every single year, it was 2 or 3 wrestlers that made that survey, along with Wayne Gretzky, along with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, or Dr. J, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. Believe me, Bo Jackson. It was always wrestlers on that list. Always wrestlers on that list. Do you think wrestlers will be on a list like that now? There's no flipping way. No. Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, those type of guys always made those lists as the top athletes in the country. You won't have that now. What's up? Hello, brother. Facebook user in the house. Let me see who that is. Jamie Purge in the house. What's up, Jamie? But, man, wrestling is not like that no more. And back in the day, we had, like I said, Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, Georgia Championship Wrestling, Florida Championship Wrestling, World Class Championship Wrestling, CWA Championship Wrestling. Let's see, Southwest Championship Wrestling out of Texas. That was Joe Blanchard's organization. We had Missouri Heavyweight Championship Wrestling, Harley Race's organization. We had all these different organizations, and anybody could tell you, my man George South has talked about this. Hey, he made a living off of wrestling back then. George South was not one of these guys. He was not a Ricky Steamboat. He was not a Sting. He was not a Lex Luger and Nikita Koloff. He didn't go in there and win a whole bunch of matches. Now he did this on the independent scene, but he did not do that on Mid-Atlantic TV. He did not do that on Georgia Championship Wrestling. He didn't do that in WWE. He was a jobber. But when he was in the territories, he made enough money to where he bought 3 houses, guys. Those guys was able to make a living back then, wrestling. And anybody that's wrestling today should be able to make a living doing this, because, man, this thing is no joke. Straight up, it's no joke, man, because you can get hurt at any time. So, man, how can we make wrestling back mainstream? That's one thing that I'm looking at, man. How can wrestling get back to the mainstream, and can it get back there in its current state with the people that's running it? Because look, ever since Vince came in, Vince changed the whole thing. He changed the whole deal. But, man, I'm just, I look at the people, like my man Green Randall talking about how, we got toxic fan base. We have a lot of toxic promoters out there. I hate to say it, but it's 100% true. Because you know what? I met a lot of them. I met a few of them, because, hey, me and Chris is around them. And I'm not talking about everybody. It's some good people. Man, I've met some great people out here, great wrestlers. I met some great promoters. I met great people, man. And people, hey, I believe will be lifelong friends. But, man, I have met some promoters. I met some people that think, hey, this wrestling thing is just for them. They want to take this wrestling. They want to put it over in their corner. They want to keep it for themselves. Like, hey, I got picked on too much in school. and I didn't get to sit at the lunch table with the cool kids. So, hey, this wrestling thing is mine now. We got too many people out here like that. And anybody don't like, hearing me say that. And I know there might be some people that might be listening, man, that might not like hearing me say that, especially some of the promoters and things like that I know. But that's the way people act. Like, hey, this wrestling thing is ours. But no, I'm sorry. That's why wrestling is where it's at now. Because if somebody come in off the street or whatever, a person that's in the general population, in the general public, and that's where we want wrestling to be back at. If you want wrestling to make big money the way it did before, you're gonna have to reach the general population, man. You're gonna have to get back in the mainstream. You're gonna have to get back that casual fan back in the day that used to watch wrestling, used to watch boxing, used to watch football, used to watch all kind of different things, and go and watch wrestling when there was something big happening. You need to get that fan back, and wrestling doesn't have it. I'm sorry. I don't care how much money WWE is making. WWE is making money with the same state of fans that they've been having for a long time. They've been losing fans, and now I think it's come to a plateau. It's at a plateau of how many fans are going to stick around for wrestling with WWE and AEW. All right, Jamie Purge, good. How do we bring kayfabe back? Jamie, man, that's going to be real hard, Jamie. That's going to be real hard. And it takes years to do that. And the only way you can really do that, Jamie, is great storylines, and it has to be on the bloodline level. That bloodline, what the bloodline just did, and maybe some of that Judgment Day, of some of the things with the Judgment Day. But every single storyline has to be on that level, man. It has to capture the heart and the attention of America, and that's what storylines used to do back in the day. It was great, man. You know, I just now put up something about Lex Luger, you know, over on YouTube about when Lex Luger got kicked out of the Horsemen. Great, man. It was awesome. I remember the build up to it because, like I said, I was in high school when this thing was going on. Lex Luger, man, you know, it was week in and week out, and Lex Luger, man, he just walking around and just strutting, you know, strutting around while everything's going on in the Horsemen. Everything's going good, and they was having plans, okay, and you know, this was around this time, I think it's around 85. It was 85 or 86, early 86. I think it was 85. I think I was like a senior in high school. But man, they was the Great American Bash, okay? They decided the Great American Bash used to be a one-night event, but they decided to take it around the country. NWA, the Mid-Atlantic Jim Crockett Promotions, decided to take it around the country. And all the Horsemen, besides Ric Flair, because Ric Flair was always in the main event at most of these shows. So all the Horsemen, all the rest of them, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, Lex Luger, and J.J. Dillon, you know, who's the manager, all decided to be in these bunkhouse stampedes. And after like 2-3 of these bunkhouse stampedes, the Horsemen started winning these bunkhouse stampedes. You know, they would end up that they would be the dominant faction. They would be the guys that was left in the ring, and it wasn't nowhere near the factions we have today. Make no mistake. Like I say, most organizations had 1 or 2 factions in it, if that. So they was the dominant ones, and they was left in the ring by every single one for like 3 or 4 weeks straight. And J.J. Dillon decided to say, hey, Lex, you know, he asked Lex, he asked Tully, he asked Arn, and he said, look, man, he said, I haven't won one of these. I think Tully had won one, Arn won one. I think Lex hadn't won one yet either. Ashton Springer, what's up, man? What's going on, brother? And Lex Luger was like, you know, Lex was just, you know, still walking around. The thing about it, what was building up to it is Lex Luger was pissed off. Excuse me. Lex Luger was pissed off at JJ because because there was interference in his match, and he had lost the United States Championship belt to Barry Windham. So he was getting pissed off, and he was just getting disenchanted with the group. But, you know, he was still hanging around the group and everything. So, but he was still part of the group. And the way to get out of a faction back then, you got beat out. You didn't just skip your way out. Just like, I mean, even today, you don't skip your way out. You usually get beat out. And okay, you know, the storyline, it culminated that one night. I think they was in Baltimore. And man, Lex was like, you know, Lex was in the ring, all those guys in the ring, and the Horseman was the last 4 in the ring. And they threw out, I think, they threw out, who was that at the end? They threw out Dutch Mantell, I think, and Ricky Santana or something like that. Or it could have been Manny Fernandez, and Ricky Santana was the last one. They threw out. All the rest of the last 4 guys in the ring was the Horsemen. You know, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, J.J. Dillon, and Lex Luger. And you know, and JJ just started celebrating, man. Oh man, I can't believe this. He was like, wow. And David Crockett came in the ring, the referee, and they ready to raise their hands or whatever. And they said, what are y'all gonna do? What are you gonna do? And so they was expecting those guys to wrestle and see who can win the bunkhouse stampede that night. Man, J.J. Dillon was like, man, this is my chance. This is my chance to go in the record books. He said, Arn, I never won one of these. He said, all you guys have captured one. So I guess every one of them had won one of them that year, that summer. He said, all you guys have won one. He said, man, let me win one. He said, let me go down in the record books. He said, this is my chance. He said, guys, I'll get to go down in the wrestling books if you just give me a chance and let me have this one, man. Let me have this one. And Arn said, man, yeah, JJ, we have no problem with that. So he slapped a 5, man. Him and Tully Blanchard slapped 5 with each other. They stepped through the ropes, man. They stepped through the ropes, and they they got out. And Lex, man, he just walking around. Everybody like, oh my gosh. You know, the crowd just like, woo. And Arn was outside. He started screaming. He started screaming at Lex. He said, Lex, He said, step over. He said, man, this is for JJ. What are you doing? Get out. This is for JJ. And Tully Blanchard said the same thing too. This is for JJ. And Lex just walking around and JJ went over there and said, Lex, I haven't worn one of these, man. He said, this is for me, man. He said, do it for me. He said, man, he said, I'll be so, so grateful, man, in your graces, man. Just do it. I gotta have this, man. This is my chance to go through the record books. Lex walked off again, got his hands on his shoulders and everything. And Lex go over and he's over on the other side of the ring. And Arn, man, he's just like, what in the world's going on? Arn ran around and he jumped up on the ring apron, got up there, and he started talking to Lex. He said, man, Lex, what are you doing? He said, this is for JJ. And he said, you need to step over. You are out of here, man. This is for JJ. And he said, you need to step over. You need to get out. And Lex said, are you asking me or telling me? He said, I'm asking you. He said, but if you put it that way, he said, I'm telling you, you need to get out. Hey, make the right decision. And no, what's the name? First, Lex said he was going to make the right decision, man. Hey, I'm my own man. That's what he had been saying week after week for like 2 or 3 weeks. I'm my own man on the Superstation, on Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling had been saying that. I'm my own man. I will make the right decision. Hey, man, the guy. Okay, and then Arn said, make the right decision. He got off the ring apron, got down. Him and Tully, man, they didn't think nothing about it. Next thing you know, man, JJ was like this, and he talking to Lex. They right there face to face. Lex grabbed him by the head, man, just ran him over there and just tossed him over the ropes. And Lex was like celebrating a little bit, not paying attention. And, he knows better. He's in this group. He knows better. And the Horsemen didn't let nothing go down at that time. They didn't let nothing go down. You was going to pay the price if you did something like that. Here comes Tully flying in the ring. Boom. He picked Tully up, slammed him. Tully rolls out the ring. Okay, here comes Arn Anderson. Same thing about that. He body presses Arn Anderson, power slams him. Boom. Arn Anderson gets up, hit him with a clothesline. Boom. Knocked him down. Then, then he gets Arn Anderson, picks him up, put him in the backbreaker, the torture rack, his famed move. And, he's bouncing. Arn, man, just looked up there looking like a sack of potatoes, looked like he's about to pass out. Next thing you know, Tully Blanchard come in there with a chair. Whack that knee. And, and then they went to work on that knee. And, JJ came in. JJ grabbed him by the arms. Tully had him by the legs. And Arn did a couple splashes on that knee. Great storytelling. And they went with that for about 2 or 3 months. And then Lex's old tag team partner, his best friend, Barry Windham, joined the Horsemen. So they was able to build off of that. You had great storylines like Jimmy Boogie Woogie Man Valiant. His storylines with Gary Hart and Paul Jones. Man, legendary. The Horsemen, when they kicked Sting out, legendary. We need feuds, man. We need storylines like that. Storylines has to be powerful. The Nikita Koloff versus Magnum TA storyline was just excellent. Greg the Hammer Valentine versus Roddy Piper. That thing when Greg the Hammer Valentine messed up Roddy Piper's ear, and how Roddy Piper was doing that for like 2 years with that ear. Man, that was just excellent storytelling. That's the only kind of way you're going to get back to kayfabe, man. It has to look that believable. It has to be that strong. Those storylines have to be so strong that people are going to believe it, even though they know that it's already been said that, hey, all this stuff is scripted, is all made up. But that's the only way, Jamie Purge, man, to get back to that. All right. But let me get a little bit more to drink, man. For some reason, my throat has been messing with me lately. But yeah, what's up, Ashton Springer, guys? But yeah, I appreciate you coming in, man. This is late night. Something I wanted to come on. I wanted to come on for a while, but I didn't really mean to get into that that long. But thanks, Jamie, for the question. I like that. But let me get into YouTube, man. I had Facebook right here on my tablet, and wow, what in the world did I just do? All right. Okay. But yeah, let me get into YouTube, man, and see what's going on over there. But yeah, appreciate everybody coming on. Straight up, man. I appreciate you guys coming on with the Straight Up Wrestling Show tonight. All right, man. But yeah, I mean, in its current state, it might take somebody from Endeavor when it boils down to it, guys. We have Endeavor in play now. They are in the business of professional wrestling. So it's going to take an outsider. In my opinion, it's going to take an outsider. It's going to take somebody that really didn't watch wrestling, but understands it. It's going to take an outsider to come in and pretty much change this thing, because I just think everybody that's involved with it now grew up with it or been in it too long to where they're going to be able to have those opinions of the people that's people that's out here that's a little different than as far as the average wrestling fan. I can go back to a friend of mine, one of the shows that we had, and she said that wasn't a wrestling crowd. And we was down in North Carolina. She was exactly right. The company that we went to, they didn't have shows that had regular crowds like that. They didn't have that basic wrestling crowd. So you need those type of fans. You need fans that's outside of the wrestling world right now. You just do, if you're gonna change anything with wrestling. Because I mean, when you go to certain things, like if I go to a golfing event, I know golfing fans. And I've been to plenty of them. My brother's a huge golfer, a huge golf fan too. I felt very uncomfortable with him. Just basically, I'm not a golf person. I've been to NASCAR. I'm not a NASCAR. I have a certain group of fans. Same thing with wrestling. Wrestling, unfortunately, has gotten there. That's where wrestling's at right now, guys. Wrestling has a certain group of fans, and they are the ones who show up for wrestling. And it seemed like those fans, like I said, from the get-go, it seemed like those fans want to gravitate toward it, and they want to keep it for themselves. They don't want nobody else to have it. And it's like you have a certain group of fans who have taken their pick on what organization they like. You have your AEW fans, and a lot of people try to say they toxic as I don't know what. I have no problem with their fans. You got your WWE fans, but you do have fans of places like AEW, Impact Wrestling, and I'm sure over WWE got them too. And you can't say anything to them about what's going on, or somebody you don't like, a certain wrestler or whatever that they like, man, and they throwing a fit over it, or they just they want to dismiss you. It's a sad state, guys. It really is. And then you have, like I said, as far as here on the indie circuit, you got certain people, man, that if you support like you got certain promoters out here, if you support another wrestling organization, man, they can't stand you for it and don't even know you. Get out here and they talk behind your back and everything. It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. All right. Man, what in the world's going on here? Man, and if you on Facebook, hit that like, share, join. If you're on YouTube, hit that like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, ding, 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 so you know when we're on like times like these. Do the same thing over on Twitch. If you see us on Twitch, and do the same thing over on X, formerly known as Twitter, man. Hit that like, share, tweet, and retweet, and follow the Straight Up Wrestling Show over on X. And guys, definitely hit that like button wherever you at. Hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube, because I tell you what, YouTube, man, that YouTube have the algorithm have done something that's slowed us down, and a lot of people don't even know when Chris and I are on now, because hey, that subscribe button is not hit anymore. Sometimes YouTube, I've seen them do it to plenty channels before. We're not the first ones, but they will, man, for some reason they will knock that notification bell down, and people will not even know that you're on. So definitely, if you on here, man, hit that notification bell so people will know that the Straight Up Wrestling Show is in the house, guys. I definitely appreciate that. But yeah, K-Fab is a, man, Jamie Purge, I don't know if you're still there, but K-Fab is a big reason that wrestling lost a lot of its audience. Not the main reason, not all of it, but it's a huge reason that wrestling lost its audience. And then wrestling back in the Attitude Era, like I said, they was wrestling women, they was slapping women, they was doing all kind of things that pretty much pretty much turned the fans off, if you ask me, in my opinion. Excuse me, guys. Been a long day, man. Been a long day, guys. I hope you had a good Sunday. And I don't know, hey, we got a lot of people out here watching football and everything. Chris was watching his favorite football team today, Philadelphia Eagles. I didn't watch any NFL football today. Well, actually a little bit of Philadelphia game and everything, man. That's because basically Chris is on it. He's a huge, like I say, he's a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan. No ends, ands, or buts about it. Okay. I just want to check out a couple things here, guys, before I start talking again. Oh, shoot. Wow. All right, guys. Yeah, I just wanted to get in and talk about that a little bit about, hey, this mainstream, and talk about how wrestling can get back to the mainstream. Do we have the wrestlers? Do we have the wrestlers today to get us back in the mainstream? The wrestlers that could get us back in the mainstream, we got a couple of them. The two main ones that I really think that could get us back into the mainstream, they're not even wrestling right now. Roman Reigns, he hasn't been defending his title. I remember when he had went to that part-time schedule. It's all right to be part-time and have a part-time schedule. It's okay to do that. But, man, he looks like he's taking it to the extreme, and he's taking a page out of MJF's book. Look like MJF is getting a little bit more active. But those two guys are doing a huge disservice. And I'm talking about both of them, one from WWE and one from AEW, guys. They are doing a huge disservice to wrestling by not being in there and competing, being in there as a wrestler, because you're talking about two guys that can bring the mainstream back to wrestling. Those two guys, they have the personality, they have the look, they have it all when it comes down to that. Seth freaking Rollins is another one, but I don't know if the fans will know how to take him at first. But it's kind of because Seth freaking Rollins kind of like have that Randy Savage type deal that's going on with him. But you had people that came off with more of a normal pacing that was out there too. You had Hulk Hogan. So Randy Savage was a little easier to take. You had Roddy Piper. Even though Roddy Piper was eccentric, loud, and crazy or whatever, he could be like the normal man. He could be like the average man out here, and people could relate to him. So that's what you basically need. But you need, like I said, you need people like Roman Reigns and MJF there, because they're going to move the needle. Those guys, man, you can put those guys on a billboard, especially Roman Reigns, and say that's a wrestler. And people are going to look at that, man. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, yeah, that is a wrestler. But the whole thing about it, and this is the truth, one friend of ours who said that Roman Reigns could shut down what was up on in New York. You could take him and put him on the street. He'll shut down Times Square. No, he won't. Not at all. And another friend of ours, another podcaster, came in and said he's wrestling famous. Yeah, he's wrestling famous. And that wasn't the case back in the day. You was wrestling famous. You was famous around the world. You was a famous person. And I mean, things done changed. So, man, but yeah, it's gonna take people like Roman Reigns. It's gonna take MJF. Who else out here, man? Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks need to be built to the biggest thing possible out here as far as a wrestler. Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, huge, man. Both of those ladies are very, very popular, and they can be very popular in the mainstream. Depends on how hard you want to push them. Man, let's see. Who else has that? Charlotte Flair has that to a certain point. And I know a lot of people are tired of Charlotte Flair, but hey, Charlotte Flair can move the needle. She can. She's one of these people that can pull the mainstream. She definitely can. But yeah, guys, I've been on for 40 minutes. I'm just gonna go ahead and roll out of here because yeah, it's just I'm not getting the traffic that I want. It's not just that. Like I said, I've been on for 40 minutes, having a little throat problem. But guys, I appreciate coming on, talking to you, and hopefully, man, we'll have other people come in and check out the stream a little bit later on. But guys, I am out of here. See you guys later. Stay straight up. Peace.